Hello, welcome back to the Tracy Developer Meetup. So this is our July edition, and we have special guest Elaine Mbuku, who is going to be talking about API security, specifically around Golang, so the Go programming language. But before we get right into that core material and let Elaine show us what's up and all the tips and tricks, I want to go over some logistical information around the group. So we are live. Both of us are live right now. Please engage with us in the chat. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to make this a fun kind of networking event where you can learn some new things and meet new people. That said, if there are any kind of audio and video issues, please also mention those in the chat. We want to make sure that we correct those as soon as we can. We'll be... Hello, Daniel. Thanks for showing up. We're excited to have you here as well. I think at this point, I'll hand it over to you, Elaine, and we can see what you're up to.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Wherever you are in the world, I know some of you are in Europe, in Africa, and wherever. And thank you for making it. And if you are in America, well, happy July 4th. I know you're already preparing for your barbecue and hot dog and whatnot, but you decided to join us. So,
are you going to be doing that in New York this weekend?
Probably no, yes and no, but there is a Macy's event that's happening as always. But this year it's actually new. Coldplay will be performing, so we'll be there hanging out with, and they always do it in Hudson River, so he'll be in the river and ours will be just on the offshore and watching. So it's gonna be fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, how about you give yourself an introduction and what you're up to?
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Alan, and I work as a security analyst at a company called Sql CI. We are a CI/CD provider, and if you are interested or if you never heard of it, I will really encourage you to go check it out. It's a very cool service that we offer. Now, before I start, a big thank to the sponsors of this event for Tracy's developers. We have MongoDB and also the Polyglot developer. So thank you. And Polyglot developer, it's always Nick. So thank you for having me here. Yeah.
Glad you're here.
All right. So before I can start talking about whatever we're playing tonight, if you have your phone, if you can scan this QR code, it's just a survey. There are only 5 questions, and Nick also will put the link in the chat so you can answer. And then later on, that will just give us an overview what kind of what demography of people we have, and at least we know who we're dealing with. All right, thanks, Nick. And as Nick said, if you have questions, feel free to pause because we are live. All right, as I was saying, I work for Sql CI, and I'm sure this is familiar. Whenever you see this icon, it's all you know already what this is. I'm a senior security engineer. I'm part of the security operations. So we pretty much help our developers do their work securely and building tools and whatnot. But that's really not what you want to know. Like work. Yeah, we always talk about work. But beside work, actually, this is where I spend my time on. I own a BMW, a 328i xDrive. I've had it for over 8 months now, or maybe a year, close to a year. And I've been kind of molding this, when someone on a Beamer, they're always hyped to mold the car. So currently I'm working on a target to reach about 400 horsepower. Finger crossed. I don't know how I'm going to reach it, but I'm almost there. So this is what I do, and if you are interested to see whatever I've been doing, you can also scan this QR code to go to my channel and subscribe if you want to, if you think it's interesting. A quick disclaimer: everything that I'm going to talk here, these are my own opinions. It's nothing that related to my work, Sql CI, or whatever logo you will see here. It's not affiliated. So there is no affiliation to any technology that I will point it out. It's just me sharing the knowledge and whatever I found useful for you so that you know what to use and what to apply in your infrastructure and whatnot. Now, question for you all, and if you can answer in the chat, that would be great. What is the most basic and fundamental step you can take to secure your API? Any question, there is no wrong answer, but we just want to know what are your answers are. And as we progress with the talk, I will give, I'll give you what I think is the most fundamental, and we'll see who will be the winner. Why are we here? Why are we talking about API security? Well, the short answer, you can see yourself. We have seen a number of breaches happening, and this is from all over the places. Facebook, UPS, Vimo, you name them. All of them are prone to the threat that are tied to APIs when we're building APIs, and the misconfiguration or missing something. And those things, when we think about it, those are something we can try to avoid or minimize the risk. So this is what I'm going to address in this talk. As you can see, if we look at the trend, we can see the different attacks that had happened throughout 2018. This is a report that was given to us by F5, and you can see how attackers were able to exploit the API vulnerabilities and then get access to information that they shouldn't need. Now, one of the other things that also led me to this talk is that I was building my own API, and I was stuck somewhere, and I was like, okay, let me look at online and how people have done it and what we can do, and so that I can also follow and implement that. And while I was reading that article, it was so great. Everything was well designed. However, I went through the comments, and this comment really stood out to me. And Rob said, the thing that I always miss with this kind of explanation are the middleware to secure the endpoint, as not everyone can call them and create havoc. Exactly. And that I was like, wow, I think I need to voice up and point this out, like exactly, Rob was on point. And this is what I'm going to address, how you can secure it. And next time, if you are building an API, or you're writing a blog post about an API, or creating an API with Golang or whatever language you use, make sure you include a security portion of it, so that, or even if you don't have time, you don't have expertise, but at least put a comment in your code like, hey, with this, I did not address the security portion of it because this and that, and give them a references how they can secure that API endpoint, unlike just leaving people in the dark and they don't know what to do next. And they will just copy your code, put it somewhere, and they say, oh, okay, there we go. Everything is working. Now, let's look at a typical design of an API. And when we talk about an API, anything can consume your API. So we look at here, we have our backend, we have multiple APIs running in our backend, and then we have our middleware, and we see we have a UI. Your UI will send requests to your backend. If there is a middleware, the middleware will know where to route it, which API upstream to send the request. We have your mobile. all of our devices that which are connected to the internet have some form of API calls that happening in between every now and then. And especially with IoT devices, you have and whatnot, you name them. Remember at the beginning, I asked you all what is the most basic you can do. So assuming you have built your API, right? You build your API and you want to deploy it. You want to deploy it so people can be able to consume it. First of all, assuming you know it's not a browser-based API, but it's just something they can use a curl or whatever. I believe that the most basic you can do is to use HTTPS. For example, as I said, that blog post that I mentioned earlier, if only that person could have included a HTTPS portion of it, I think that he would have already fulfilled at least 10% of securing your API. Because when you're making calls, if your calls are being sent to your API in plain text, that's already whatever information that is going to the backend will be unencrypted, and that actually a flow. Remember, using a web browser, this is a headless API that you just send a HTTP request using curl or whatever tool you're using. So make sure when you building your API and you start planning on deploying it, before we go dive in about authentication and whatnot and what other API management stuff we're going to talk about, deploying the HTTPS. Always have in mind when you're building your API, your APIs, your call should be encrypted. What are the common threats our API are exposed to, and how attackers come to exploit our API endpoint? We see that access control. Access control is one of the, if we take out the HTTPS or secure communication aside, one of the things you should think of, authentication. There are many ways you can implement the access control of your API, which I will explain later. But you also have to think of how do you authenticate your clients? How do you provide access to the resources through your APIs? And that's why we're talking access control and authentication, authorization. The next thing is rate limiting. We have some APIs. You build your API. You don't think of, okay, what would happen if someone send the request, let's say 1,000 requests per second? Yes, we have those other automation tools that someone can actually fuzz your application and send so much requests in 1 second. Yes, you can have a robust server at the back end. You say, yeah, my server can handle a lot of requests per second, but your application itself cannot handle that. But also, when you don't have that kind of rate limitation, what will happen? I will talk more later on. Another thing that I will talk about is the input validation. That also, don't think the input validation only happen in the browser. Even in your API itself, when someone sends a curl request to your endpoint API, if you don't do the input validation or data or you sanitize your data, an attacker can send malicious requests or a malicious payload that will exploit your endpoint. And if you don't have a proper security mechanism on your endpoint, you will see that those people will exploit it and gain access to information that they shouldn't.
Hey, we have a question coming in from Daniel. Sorry to interrupt. I put it up on the screen, but he's interested in learning the differences between authentication and authorization for these access controls. And do you have any examples?
Daniel, thank you. I will come back to that one. Yes, I will talk to Ray probably in the next slide or so. I will talk about the those two type of controls, what it means exactly. I have that for you. So hold your breath. And that's a very great question. Thank you for asking. And please send your question, everyone. We are live, so it's not something that you're watching on demand. We are live, so we want to see all your questions. And make sure you also fill out the survey because we'll need that information later on. All right. Now, here we are, Danielle. Let's talk about access control, the difference between both. Look at this picture, this GIF. Look at what this dude he's doing. He's giving people access, and he's tried kind of like checking. Okay, these people they don't have guns, but exactly how are you really doing the check? It's kind of like summarize everything that I'm going to talk about, like input validation. How is he validating that person doesn't have a gun? And how does he trust that this person doesn't have a gun? And why is he giving them access just like that? So I think you get a point when I want to get to the authentication. The difference between authentication and authorization. Before you can authorize someone to get access to your data, you first need to do the authentication. So your authentication, usually that's where you put your username and password. And then if you have a two-factor authentication enabled, then that person will verify, okay, it's me with my, this is my 2FA code, or they have or maybe they have a UTF dongle. They will press in the UTF, and then they get authenticated. Now, being authenticated does not mean necessarily you give them access to the data. I can be authenticated to a web portal, but I do not have access to the resources that I need. Someone need to give me another access inside of the UI that I'm in, so that I will gain access to the server. So here an example of an authorization, right? I have an application with multiple layers. So let's say this application provides shipment data, and the same application provides me financial data, and they are both in the same system. So when I am authenticated, I can only view the data that is related to the shipment, but it does not give me access to the financial information. So that where the authorization happened, like I would block you from accessing this kind of information because you do not have permission to access it. Then I can grant you another access to I can grant you another access so that I can authorize you to gain access to other information. So remember, authentication is just for me. Okay, I know this is the person, this is the user, yes, this is the user I want in my system. But the data, no, I can only authorize you to get this type of data, not the other data. Daniel, I hope I answer your question. But if you still need more info, I'm happy to give you different scenarios as well. Now, when building your API, there are many ways you can apply your access control. So when I talk about access control, think of it, I'm combining both authentication and authorization. So, and if I'm talking about a specific aspect of access control, I would name it. But when I say access control in general, it's both authentication and authorization. So I hope I clear that confusion for you all.
We have another question coming in from Daniel. What category do you think JWTs fall in? Authentication or authorization?
I will get to that. Hold your breath. Great question. I have that for you. Great question. Now, within the access control, we have a basic auth. The basic auth, that is where you have your username and password. And that also, think of it, for example, if I give you an API access token, just the API access token, that falls under the basic auth. And then because I will need a username at some point, or maybe you just implemented a token, and then that token will verify you, okay, this is the user, and the user has access to this kind of information. Now, the next thing is SAML. If you know about single sign-on, usually the single sign-on we use SAML, but there is also another common authentication we use is OpenID, the OpenID Connect. That also another protocol people use for access control. And then we have OAuth 2, OAuth 2.0. Basically, I pointed 2.0 because one is already it's something that you shouldn't think of when implementing access control on your API, when building your API. Now, Daniel pointed out about the JWT and what's on it. So to answer your question, where does it fall into? It mostly falls into the authorization portion. Let me make it clear. Usually the JWT, it's used for authorization. Unfortunately, people are using it for authentication, and that's where most people made a mistake. And they think that using JWT for authentication is the best way of doing it. So if you're doing it, make sure you review your API design. And also at the end, actually you could just forget about using a JWT. Why am I saying that? It has been proven that the JWT, and a lot of people, when you look at all the API design or API guide that you say, building Golang API with JWT, they always show that you can store it in local storage or in a browser cookie, and those are prone into the cross-site request forgery attack. I'm not going to go too deep into it because that's a topic on its own. But if you want to build your API and you want to apply the authentication and authorization, I would highly encourage you to use OAuth 2. Remember, OAuth, it's a framework. So it's not just a one entity like JWT that you use, it's a framework. And within the framework, OAuth 2 does use JWT inside of it, but they are using it just for a short period of time. So when you are using OAuth 2, they already have a good foundation how good to use a JWT. Then you don't have to worry too much about, okay, how am I gonna store my JWT and whatnot. I hope that cleared the confusion. But if you have any question, I'm here. I can clarify better. But if you still want to use JWT, assuming your API does require you to use JWT, at least when you're building it, you need to set it to have a HTTP only flag. So what does it mean is when a request comes in, so your API will only your back-end server will access the JWT token. So everything on the front end on your browser will not know where your JWT token is. You can have your cookie tokens, you can have your session token, but it's not going to access your JWT when you set the HTTP only flag. Another common way of using JWT, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but assuming we have a Google API that called RPG Edge, if anyone have ever used that Google API. So assuming you are doing like a federation type of authentication flow, then you will use the JWT that will send to the API gateway. The API gateway, this is the token that has been sent from the client, and then the client will know, okay, the server will know it came from this client, and usually those tokens are short-lived. They are not saved for a long period of time. Usually they are short-lived. Sometimes they will be 5 seconds, sometimes they will be 1 minute or 60 seconds, but not like more than a year or something like that. Unlike your cookie session that will go over 30 days or a year of validation. And that's why it's better to use OAuth 2. Then they will know, okay, how to better apply into your authentication flow. Now, if you are using a JWT and in Go, here are the common things you want to look at. You will see there is so by the way, the slides will be available maybe tomorrow after the talk. So don't worry, we'll make it available. And Nick also will share the slides. I'll give him the link to share the slide to everyone who have signed up. So assuming you are in Go, there are so many libraries out there. This is just a few of them. You can see wherever there is a cross, where everything that is checked, this is an alarm for you. It's something that it's not implemented. It's something that is not implemented into the design of the GWT framework. So you want to make sure the one in the middle probably is the one I will go with if I'm playing for JWT using the Go framework, using the Golang. Again, I'm not going too deep into this because these are topic on its own, but at least you're getting information on if you're building your Go API and what you need to use. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the rate limiting. What is rate limiting? Now, as I mentioned earlier, when someone sends multiple requests per second, how are you handling and how will you handle that? Actually, I have a snippet code later when we get to the end. I will show you how this is implemented in one of my my application that is actually in production. So this actually helps us a lot in mitigating a DDoS attack. So when you have a denial of service attack, when you have a rate limitation, someone send multiple requests at once, you can play around how you want to. Does that mean the difference between or into? Okay, I will, Susanna. Great question. I will get that to you. I'll get back to that. Great question. Yeah, so I was saying the rate limitation will help you to limit the DDoS attack and also web scraping. So what is web scraping? So assuming you have your API with multiple pages, and when someone sends a request, they are able to get all the pages at once without even having some control. And that actually that what we call like pagination. So you want to make sure you implement some pagination in your API when you're building your API, but I will get to that a little bit later. And brute force attack. The brute force attack, assuming your API have an authentication flow, the username and password, or let's say you have a web UI with username and password, you want to make sure when someone sends a request on your login page, you want to make sure you're checking, okay, how much requests you want to accept when someone's sending a request in the login page. And usually this is actually where you also want to implement to reinforce your security by implementing a rate limitation. For example, you just want someone, if they put 5 times the password, then we're going to block them. And that's up to you how long you want to block them. You want to block them for the next 10 minutes. You want to block them for the next 5 minutes. If the user has an account, you want to lock out the account, or maybe you want to ban that IP for a certain period. You say, okay, if a request is coming from this IP, I want to block it and I don't want to get anything else from this IP. So depending how you want to implement that based on your business decisions. I think I'll talk about it. One of the example how people have implemented pagination is like a couple of days ago, I was working with a GitHub APIs and also Bitbucket Jira APIs. They have what they call pagination. So it enforces the client when they are sending requests to the server, you only get a certain number of results. That actually it's also a very key point. So when someone sends a request to your API and you want to return the data, you want to make sure you send the response results that you send has some limitation on it. You don't want to dump everything at once. At least create some form of limitation, and that actually will also help you to limit how much data someone can scrape out of your system. And pagination is one of it. So you force people to go to the next page until you get all the result that they want to get on the API. So GraphQL actually is, as we're talking about all the REST API, GraphQL is actually the one that forces you to really say, okay, what resources are you going to return to the client when they send the data? Because GraphQL usually forces you to really define what you're returning. Unlike REST API, with a REST API, okay, there it is, data, and then give it back to the user. And usually that's why people go with the REST API, because they know it's just easier to implement and whatnot. Here's an example of a pagination with Golang, how you can implement that. So assuming we have a middleware that is called pagination, and then this is the one actually that will control, like, okay, what number of data, what type of data do I need to retrieve to the user. So you create a middleware, and then you control the flow of the data that coming through. If you have any question on this, happy to answer. Now let's move to input data validation. This is also what I mentioned earlier. It's very important. Now, you have your API. Assuming that API, you send a username, you send a password, and then you send some other form of data. Now, if you don't have a data validation, someone can send a malicious, let's say a command and control on your server. So if you don't have, like, okay, with my API on my endpoint, I only need this type of request that should come through. Everything else will be rejected. For example, if you don't want anything to be, you don't want any numbers to be passed through your API request, you need to block that. You want to make sure only strings are passing through and no numbers or whatever. Or for example, another example is that you don't want any JavaScript command to be sent through your API. And actually, people do make those mistakes. They forget to proper sanitize the data, and then someone send a malicious request, and then it get executed. For example, this one that you see, someone send a curl request to the user, and then they are asking to get the whatever that return into the password folder. So remember, this it's in Linux. Usually these ones are encrypted most of the time. But if you're keeping something in there that is unencrypted, then you have to go and check whatever going on there. Usually it's encrypted. However, if someone sends this request and they get that data back, that means they can send anything else and scrape into your into your API endpoint. So if this command is correct, or it has been successfully computed and get back whatever that is in the password folder, then they can send anything else. They can get whatever data you have on your web server. Now, data validation. There is a great resource for OAuth Top 10. I have the link in this slide, so you will know to understand exactly what are the different, because they publish it every 3 years. For the past 3 years, you will know what were the most common vulnerability, the top 10 vulnerability that happens, and you will learn a lot on how you can secure it. Here, an example of data validation. We have our middleware, and this one actually check what data have been sent into the backend. So we know that we need an email address, and then we also know that we need a social security number. Now, when this comes through, you can see we have an email, we have a social security number. We retrieve it from our form because we're using for a multi-part form, for example, and that multi-part form might have might have a text box that requires you to enter your email and to enter your social security number. You see that first, I am verifying if it is a valid email address. Don't assume someone will enter a correct email address. They might put in a malicious code in your email entity and then send it to the server. And if you don't have the validation for it, it might your server will execute it as it is. So make sure you check exactly it is an email. And also social security number. You want to make sure it is a valid format of social security number. You don't want anything else. The next thing I want to talk about, now that we talk about a lot of things about data validation, authentication, and all that, now what next? What can I do next? Now, you have deployed your API. Your API is working great. Everything is working. Now, what can I do next? How would I know it's performing properly? How will I know how people are, what kind of requests are coming through my server, and so forth? And this is where the API management flow comes in. And one of it is logging and reporting. When you're building your API, you want to create some form of logging. You want to make sure you create some middleware that catch all your HTTP requests. What type of requests come through? What type of where the requests were originated? Which clients send the request? And what type of requests exactly? For example, what data has come through? What kind of payload? You want to have that. Now, there are many ways you can do it. You can hard code it. Thank you. You're great. You want to invest a lot of time on doing it, but there are actually better way of doing it, and that way comes to API gateway. API gateway are built in such a way. Remember, we talk about authentication. We talk about authorization, mainly authentication, and we also talk about rate limiting and whatnot. Now, instead of you applying that by your own, you can already limit the time on building it and just have an API gateway in front. Now, most of the time, if we do have like infra people or SRE, depending how you call it internally, if we are those people, mostly those people will come with those solutions like, okay, we want to apply the API gateway. Or maybe if they don't know about it, now this is a great time when you're building, you say that, okay, I have time to build my API, but I want you guys to go and help me implement an API gateway because one, it will help you to mitigate all the other things that I just spoke about. For example, rate limiting, it will be great. They will do it for you. There's just some settings that you need to put in. You don't have to hard code it. I mean, you can hard code it with Golang. Go has there are a lot of you can do it by your own, but also the API gateway will give you a lot of advantages. For example, some of the API gateway, for example, Nginx that have a module that will help you to do the rate limitation. They also have a module that will help you to do authentication. And mainly another API gateway that I also like is Kong API gateway. Kong actually has a lot of plugins. They also have OAuth 2 plugins that you can use for authentication and authorization. So once you have it, you can just link the library or link the third party portion that you took and then link it to your API gateway, and then it can do everything else for you. And logging as well. API gateway are built to provide logs. They get better log aggregation so that you know exactly what's going on. Later on, I will show you a demo of what I personally use for logging and debugging when I know what's going on. And we're also going to see some live feeds of what's going on in the application later on. Another good thing is that you need to think of is when you're building your API, you want to secure it. Yes, we implemented HTTPS. We need also to set up a firewall. Now, I'm gonna get a bit of water. I'm already dry. If you have a question, we want to hear from you all. You need to think of a web application firewall. Now, remember, I know that there aren't a lot of great web application firewall out there. Most of them are paid. For example, Signal Sciences, that's a paid one. You have other ones from AWS, those are paid one, they're not free. But there are some free one you can try. For example, there is for Nginx, if you are an Nginx fan, there is OpenResty web application firewall. If you use Nginx, you can use that as well. It will do the API gateway, will do the logging for you, and do the and protect you. Now, what a web application firewall help you is that, remember I talked about the web the OAuth top 10. Your web application will actually help you on blocking, for example, the Sql injection. That's also one of the thing I forgot to mention. Sql injection, those are also most popular attack people will always try to poke into your API endpoint, like if it's prone to Sql injection and whatnot. And a web application firewall can actually detect a type of payload that comes through, and then if it's a Sql injection, it will help you to protect it. But hey, if you want to build it, what is the function of API gateway? So if an API gateway is, remember let me go back to here. Remember, you see this portion in the middle, this part here in the middle where we have the request, response, and whatnot. This is actually, you put it in front of your API endpoint. So your API gateway will be the front door of all the requests that comes through to the client. Now, when something comes from an IoT device, for example, your API gateway, depending on the routes that you created, it will route the traffic to the correct endpoint that you define in your API gateway. So it will say, okay, I know this is coming from this type of request of IoT. I will point it to my backend API 3. If it's coming from, let's say, in the cloud, I know that whatever that you said, if it's coming from the cloud and what type of application is that, you know that, okay, the route for that is to API 1. So think of it like if you're building your HTTP server, you have the route portion. Like, remember, like in Golang, we have a popular library that we call like Gorilla Max, so that help you with the routing and so forth. So it just help you on routing your traffic. Of course, when you're building your server, you will know like, okay, I'm writing the traffic coming through. It's go to this function, I handle this route and so forth. So the API gateway, think of it. Thanks, Nick. So API, think of it. API gateway would be your front end part of your API endpoints. That would be your front end. Then it will route all the requests through your API back end, because you know exactly what type of request coming through and where to write it. It's actually help you to better implement, not necessarily orchestrator, not necessarily as an orchestrator, but something like that. Yeah. But I have a demo for you. I will show you exactly what an API gateway does exactly. Maybe that will happen. Okay. Bear with me. These are the example that I mentioned to you. The example that I mentioned, we have the the Amazon API gateway, we have Nginx API gateway, and then we have Kong. Now, Nginx itself, you can use it as an API gateway, but they also have what they call Nginx Plus, but that is a paid. However, for the free one, you could, is GraphQL from an API gateway? Danielle, GraphQL actually it's not necessarily a form of API gateway, but it has a different design that you might think of as an API gateway. But again, your endpoint itself can be an API gateway. Your endpoints, your API endpoints can be an API gateway. But the thing is, with API gateway, it does the functionality that that help you to ship your code faster. Let me just say it that way. It's help you to ship your code faster because some of the function that you will hard code, your API gateway will already take care of that, and then you will just implement what necessarily for your endpoint. GraphQL implementation, depending on how you're using it. For example, if you use the Apollo saver and whatnot, I think the Apollo saver works kind of like an API gateway, but not necessarily. These are the examples. So if you haven't heard about Kong API actually is one of the free one you can try. It's actually great because you can add a lot of plugins that will help you to, for example, if you want to implement HTTPS. Now, instead of you thinking like, okay, I need to implement HTTPS into my code and whatnot. Now, the API gateway will just tell you where is the certificate file. You just tell the server, okay, this is where my certificate file is, and then it will take care of the rest. Logging and reporting. I already talked about all of this. Now, let me share with you a demo of wait a minute. Yeah. All right. All right. Nick, can you see my new screen? The one that I'm sharing?
I see a screen with Amplify on it. Is that
Exactly.
what we should be seeing?
Yes.
Right, perfect.
Yes. Great. Thank you. All right. So logging and reporting and understanding the performance of your API. This is one of the one of my server that is running in AWS. This is actually a live server for Ybit.io. If anyone familiar with this, it's actually a secure file sharing. I created this when Firefox 10 was turned down, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can create an alternative for this. There is actually we had a podcast about it. There is a link in my website. You can read it. You can listen to it. It's really great. So this is one of the monitoring tool that I use. It actually tells me what's happening in terms of the performance of my my Nginx server. So this is Amplify. It's provided by Nginx. It's completely free. So it actually tells me the type of HTTP requests that I received. For example, it tells me mostly we have HTTP version 1, we have 1.1, and version 2. So version 2 is mostly like HTTPS. Version 1 is HTTP. Now, why am I seeing so many HTTP requests only instead of HTTPS? Yeah, that's actually a great question. Because everything else that's happening between Nginx and the core server of Ybit.io, that is only, it's not encrypted. Why? Because it's internal, it's not exposed. And no one has access to it except the two applications that are connecting between them. And that's one thing you want to think. Now, the API gateway is taking care of my my HTTPS. For example, when you go here, you check here, you can see I have my connection is secure. I'm using Let's Encrypt to have this, and However, internally, I'm not using it because my Nginx is taking care of the HTTPS portion of it. So this is now I know, okay, the performance, and it's give me every other performance, what's going on my server. Now Nginx Plus have actually more than this, but this is just a I think for me, with whatever that happening in the backend, this makes a lot of sense for my server. Another thing you can use for your logging is you can use the Elasticsearch or the Elastic Stack, the ELK stack that you have, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. You can actually, it's also actually a great alternative to that. You can use Grafana. A lot of people use Grafana, and then they use Elasticsearch and Logstash. Or you can use Sumo Logic. So I have an instance of Sumo Logic here. I have an instance of Sumo Logic, so let me log in real quick here. This my So this is also just, it's also getting all the requests that are coming through my server. So assuming we want to know, so if you all just go use your mobile or your laptop, just go to yb.io and then send any requests, and we will see a live feed that's coming through the server. So I know that, okay, there is some request that came through, and you use the HTTP version 2. So I know, oh, okay, it's coming through a secure channel. So I can also have a live feed of this. So what I'm going to do, I'll just copy this. So these are the query that Sumo Logic uses, so that you can see, okay, what's going on, like just like you're doing a search on your Kibana and stuff like that. So we are also able to view a live feed. So just go to yb.io and send all the requests that are coming through, and then we will see it populating here. We will see. You can see whoever sent this request. You can see now this is the Nginx Amplify, because it's always sent like every second. It checks what's going on in the server, and you can see we have an IP address. So we have someone who's using Mozilla, send a request to my server and stuff like that, and whatnot. So you have the ability to see what's going on, and if there is any malicious code that's coming through, it will also give you what type of malicious requests that have been sent to the server. You can see we have a live feed that's coming through. So, and also this is free of charge. I'm using a free version. So, and it helps. It really helps. I can run really crafted queries here just to see where it's coming through and whatnot. For example, if I run this, it will give me some result coming through. So I can expand the time. Let's say in the last 1 hour, what did you get? This is what we get in the last. So I have a regex. I parse my my logs and to see what's going on and stuff like that. And we also have a live feed of everything that's being sending through. And if any question, send us your question. Send us your question. Danielle, great question. Nick, can you send me that question?
Yeah.
That was a great question.
You want me to put it back on the screen?
Yeah. Okay, great. The question is, can I categorize a middleware verification has an API gateway? Okay, I'll get back to you, Danielle. Thank you for the question. Now, another thing that usually happens is, okay, I'm building an API, but you say, okay, you need to use HTTPS, but I'm on a local host. I can't test HTTPS. Um, yes, you can use Let's Encrypt. A lot of people use Let's Encrypt, but also with Let's Encrypt, it will ask you to Let's Encrypt will ask you to have a valid domain, but you don't have a domain yet. What are the alternative? You can generate a self-signed certificate. However, when you use a self-signed certificate, the self-signed certificate actually your browser by default does not recognize your self-signed certificate. And actually, funny enough, there is a tweet that came through. Chrome browser is actually forcing people all the connection has to be via HTTPS. It's really blew up my Twitter. If I go into Twitter, it's actually blew up the Twitter. And this person has been talking about it. This actually just happened now. You can hear. I can share this with you all. And this actually came in the perfect time. This is Troy Hunt. If you anyone doesn't know about Troy Hunt, they say waiting eagerness to see HTTPS in the mind over, and they say okay, and then this person is actually debating like, okay, why are you enforcing us to use HTTPS on the local on every request? And they say some people might not have the flexibility on having a self-signed certificate. And I responded, and I was like, yeah, just tell your browser to trust the substance certificate. Now, there is a better method that you can actually use to, with a simple command, you can actually generate a substance certificate, and also and have your browser to trust that certificate. Let me share with you all how we can do that. Now, let me log in here quickly. All right. All right. This is a virtual machine. Sometimes it has it's lagging. This is what we get when you're doing a live demo. But all right. Okay. Now there is this guy or this person, if I may be polite, this person, his name is Filippo. He created a tool that will help you to create a self-signed certificate. I will directly share this link with you all. If link can Nick, can you help sharing this link for us?
Yeah, are you able to paste it in the private chat for StreamYard? And I'll share
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I will do that. I will do that. Let me share that with you. 1 second. All right, there we go. I got it.
Which private chat did you use? Oh, there it is.
All right.
It was just delayed.
Yeah, it's delayed. All right.
All right, I'll get
Now
it in.
it's so easy to do that all you have to do, make install, and you just add example.com, localhost, and blah blah blah, and so forth. In one command, it will do everything for you. And once you do make cert install, it will actually tell your browser to trust the server. So I already ran the command. Okay, close terminal. I already ran this, and let's fire up a server. Or let's see, make cert. Yeah, all you have to do is to just make cert. You put whatever website you are going to test, example.com, localhost, and blah, 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 and so forth. When you press enter, and it does everything for you automatically, and it says it's created a new certificate. The name is example.com, and blah, blah, blah. And if we do this, we know that it says example.key and also example, blah, 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 and so forth. Now I will go into document. All right, let's fire this in our Visual Studio. So we see our local server. So I created a server. So this is our local server. So I'm not using any external library. I'm only using like our built-in library, a standard library for this because it's not robust. I don't need anything. Then we have our server, which we have here. These are the route. Remember, I was talking about the routing using the mark Gorilla Marks. I'm not using Gorilla Marks because But one of the other interesting part when you're building your server in Golang, so assuming using an API gateway, but you have your API endpoint and you want to serve it directly from your Go code, this is how you this is an example of how you can run your Golang server. Now, make sure you have this in your server. So the TLS suites, these are the algorithm that you are telling your server to use, or your browser. When your browser trusts a certificate, you say, I want to use this Cypher suite. And actually, these are the most modern Cypher suite that you want to use, because some of the Cypher suites, some of them are outdated and they are prone to vulnerabilities. So these are the most trusted one you want to use. And with our self-signed certificate, we named it sets.pem, and we have the key.pem here. We have, remember, I know we have the one that's the example, blah, 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 but there's another command that you can actually provide the name of the server that the name that you want your certificate file to be named. And with that, pretty much, this is our server. With that, we can just fire up our server. Because I did not create a user that will run this code, I will just use my sudo. Just use sudo because the port 443 does not run on a standard user. So you need to be like a super user to run on code 443, unless you created some services that you give proper permission to run on 443. All right, our server is running. So if I go here on my local host, you can see it's on localhost and it's encrypted. So automatically, remember, usually if your certificate is not trusted, it will complain, oh, I don't know this certificate, what is it? But we already ran the command that send out that automatically did it for me to trust the certificate that are self-signed and generated. Now you are able to test whatever you need to test on your API using a secure method. Send us your question. I'm happy to answer all your questions. Another aspect that I want to talk about, and this is also very important, and people always forget about this. And we do see that a lot. We do see this a lot. Encrypting the data. If you care about the user, you need to encrypt the data. Encrypt the data in transit. We already saw you can use HTTPS. That's the best, the basic you can do. Use HTTPS. All your calls that are coming through should be encrypted. And then when you encrypt your data, assuming you're providing API keys, encrypt the API key. All API key. It's either, if you are not storing the API keys, at least hash them using the, for example, use Argon2 to hash use bcrypt or any Script variant that is proven to be secure to encrypt your data. Or if you are someone like me who always like poking around, use the standard library that provide an AEAD. AEAD stands for Authenticated Encryption and Additional Data. Use the AEAD algorithm, and one of the algorithm I can recommend is Shasha Poly. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Shasha 20 Poly 1305. That usually is the one of the best AEAD scheme you can use. Or if maybe you are one of those, they say, oh, my encryption has to follow the NIST implementation, then AES GCM is your bet. And also, we just heard there is another algo that have been, I mean, there was a patent on that, but actually it's now like people can use it. I will have that in when I updated the slides, and you can also check that. But the best you can do, encrypt it. If you think it's too much to encrypt your data, for example, use MongoDB. MongoDB actually provide a fifth level encryption. It's abstract a lot of things for you to think, okay, how can I encrypt it? How can I securely implement the AEAD? MongoDB with a fifth level encryption, you could actually just say, okay, encrypt me this file, this field, because this field this field I want it to be protected. And then it's also fast when you search it and whatnot. They've done incredible work on that. So you need to check that as well. The fifth level MongoDB fifth level encryption. I'm actually giving a talk in 2 weeks about that. So if you know about MongoDB Live, I will be giving a talk regarding the MongoDB fifth level encryption. So hope you can come and have fun with me. If you are using a Golang library, the best use the Xcrypto library. The Xcrypto package actually have everything you need. And for example, you have Secret Box. Secret Box have a good layer, and they help people for you to not miss implementing your encryption when you want to encrypt your data. So Secret Box, or if you want to just go around, have a little bit of flexibility, then just look at all the AED encryption that you have in a Go package. Another one you can another cool tool is Google Think. Google Think is actually it's also, if you know about is it Keyser, if I'm pronouncing correctly. If I'm wrong, I think Nick can correct me. Use Keyser for you to use Think, which is the replacement of the Keyser to encrypt your data. Some people go with Vault by HashiCorp. That's also great. Another downside is you need a lot of resources, and you really have to know how to implement that. People make mistake to publicly expose Vault, and sometimes they fail. So be cautious when using Vault by HashiCorp. I'm not saying it's bad. It's a great tool, but you need some better infrastructure people to implement that and proper use your the Vault encryption. Now, a quick recap. What have we learned here? Only expose the interfaces that we need. If there is a data that you don't want people to get access to, don't provide that data. To be honest, for example, when I was dealing with the Jira API, I can tell they've sent me so much of data that I don't even need. Why don't you just send me the basic data, and then if I need a certain field, I can just query it next. But when you send the request, you get it back, you just get bunch of results, and you kind of actually get confused. So if you're building an API, only provide the data that is useful. Everything else, no need to share it. Now, when you're also collecting the data, I think this is also one of the important. Some people, when they are building their front-end interface, I think it's also important that don't collect it. You don't need it, don't collect it. If your API does not really need an email address, don't get it. If your API doesn't need an age or or your API doesn't need to have a gender, don't collect it. Just get what is useful, and the less you have, the better you are. When something get exposed, you know that there is just a handful of data that is exposed, and everything else is actually protected. And also encrypt whenever you can. Encrypt whenever you can. Not applying authentication. As I said earlier, authentication does not mean authorization. When you authenticate someone, give them the proper authorization. Authorize them to the data they need, not everything. There was a question by Danielle. Nick, do you mind sending me that question so I can answer that?
Which one was it? Was it the one about categorization of middlewares?
Yes. Mhm. Can I categorize middleware example verification middleware as an API? So actually, Danielle, when you're implementing a JWT, or when you have when you have an API gateway, so when your traffic comes through, you know that okay, it's on this endpoint. And when that endpoint comes through, you're the one who controlling from your middleware. You're the one controlling. Okay, I need to get a refresh token. Assuming you are using OAuth 2, right? I need a refresh token. Then your API gateway would know how to send the refresh token to your let's say authentication or authorization middleware. Your API gateway, especially with Kong, Kong will know, okay, this refresh token, I need to send it to this middleware, and then we'll consume it and then continue the process. Did I answer your question? Now, the next thing that you want to do is stop implementing your own encryption algorithm. A lot of people do that mistakes. When you're building API, your API can grow, will grow. I can guarantee your API will grow as you build your API. It will grow. Don't think of implementing your own encryption key, or sorry, don't your own encryption algorithm. Use what is already there, because it has been gone through a lot of security reviews for it to be available to use. Yes, a lot of people go with GCM AES or AES GCM. However, I'm not going to go deep into it, but if you want to use encryption and blocked into NIST or whatever, use an AEAD scheme, and actually that is the more modern we can recommend. Use an API gateway. It will help you on it will help you on actually reducing a lot of overhead on some of the stuff that, instead of hard coding them by yourself, the API gateway will help you on remediating that. And use a WEF. Another thing you can do is consult the experts. For if you are a Golang enthusiast, I would recommend you to consult. Go into the Gopher Slack. I always hang out there, especially if there's a security There's a security channel. There's also crypto channel. So if you want to implement a crypto and you need a question, they are actually very friendly and they can answer you. Another place you can go is on the Reddit crypto subreddit. I'm always there as well. I always look at what people ask, and they are also happy to answer. These are a few of the resources that you can use and look at. There's a great talk. One of the things I would recommend is this one, the Nordic APIs. They have a lot of talks about building API, scaling your microservices, and whatnot. API. We also have Octadev. The Octadev channel. They also have a lot of API talks. For example, there is one by Nate. There is another one by Aaron. Aaron talks a lot about OAuth 2 and JW token and how you can use them, how you can properly use them. So you also want to check that out. And with that, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you listening.
This is awesome. We'll let some of the questions trickle in, and I'll go over some logistics stuff for the group again, and then we'll circle back. So I'm going to share my screen now.
Okay.
Don't worry, you can keep sharing yours. I'm just going to switch between them.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So my screen should be up. This is what I do at the end of every meetup. So I plug our group. So this is if you're watching this video, if you're this currently it's live, but it's going to be on demand later. This is part of the Tracy developer meetup. So typically before COVID, we would meet in Tracy, California, but we're meeting remotely for now, and we may do both in the future. But if you want to get an idea of our upcoming events, tracydevs.com, like I said, the next event that we're having, it's not a technical event, this next one. So this is a valuable one. This is a kind of workshop informational session on building a resume and making your LinkedIn bulletproof. So that way, when you submit your resume to different organizations, they actually see it and you actually get calls back. So this is incredibly useful if you're a developer and you're looking for work, or if you're having struggles. So definitely make sure you register to it. With that said, let me just circle back to your screen here. I got your screen back up. So, are we revealing all your passwords right now?
No,
did I put your screen back up at a bad time?
This is just not a bad time. Just a two-factor authentication. There is something I want to share. Yeah, there are some Go code I want to share real quick. I'm just signing on to my GitLab.
Don't worry, I hid your screen, so just tell me when you're good.
Yeah, and keep sending your question.
Yes, please.
And thank you you all for answering the questions. Now, let's go to our survey and see what we got.
You log in?
No, yeah, 1 second.
Sure. You're not using a YubiKey or anything? You're using.
I am using a YubiKey. I ran out of ports. I don't have ports anymore. So yeah. I'm just using my two-factor authentication. All right, 1 second. All right, Jerry 3.
All right, put it back. There you go.
Okay, what do we have here? So, just kind of.
Can you zoom in just slightly on your browser?
Yeah, I will do so. Okay. Better?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay. All right, here is an example of how I do my rate limiting. So when a request comes through, I have a function that actually will check for 5. So if you're sending too many requests for 5 times, then you get blocked. I block you, and then after that, I release it at some point. And I have my logging. So remember when I say only get the data that you need. For me, all I need on my application, it's literally just I need the IP address and pretty much that, and also what type of requests that are coming through. Is it a GET request, or is it a what type of HTTP request that has been sent? Is it a HTTP request, or is it a GET request? Is it a POST request, or is it like a head or whatever? So this is my logging. In one of the logging that I do that I hard coded myself. Pretty much, I think that's all I wanted to share here. Another thing, I know people are wondering how whitebits.io works. Remember, I mentioned that I scan each file. So each file that you send on whitebit.io, I actually scan it for a malware. And I don't read what you send, but it just scans if it's a malware. If it's a malware, it will reject it. So I have a middleware that's actually action for the file, and it's get it, and then it sends it somewhere. Here, new scan for malware. So you get my file, and then it scans it, and this is where it scans. So I run a what they call Claim 80. Claim 80 is an antivirus that I run, and I run it on localhost on on this port. So it will scan, and it only scans each chunk. So that's why you see how fast it is. So it's not like it will wait for the entire file to come and then scans it. So each chunk it scans it. If it's okay, it passes through. And then if it's found anything in between, it blocks it. Then your file will not process. Regardless how big your file is, it scans it really fast. Yep. That's what I wanted to share. Okay, let's see the result we got here. I'm happy to share with you all the results. It's not something secret.
Yeah, let's see them. No private information,
a lot
right?
of people say advanced people. That's great. What is your programming experience? All right, great. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you all for answering. Oh, awesome. Yeah, thank you all for doing the survey. Yeah, thank you, and I hope I will see you at the MongoDB talk.
Yeah,
Coming up soon.
I encourage you, whoever's viewing this event, to participate. Sorry, I'm going to mute you for just for a second. There's a little bit of an echo. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, if please go ahead and sign up to Elaine's talk at MongoDB. It's going to be a streamed event. More information to come on that if you just follow MongoDB. But Elaine, this was fantastic. I just unmuted you. I'll be sending
thank you for having me. That was thank you for having
I'll be sending a recap email after this event, but I'll wait till I receive, because you said you wanted to include the slides, correct?
Yes, the slide will be ready by tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then probably after the holiday weekend in the
After
United
the
States,
holidays, yes.
I'll send out that recap email. It'll have the on-demand link to the YouTube video, and it will also have those slides. I'm getting a question. Can you send us the link to the MongoDB event? I would, but I don't think it's publicized yet. So that was just a little sneak peek that Elaine was given on that it's coming.
Stay tuned. I will post. So follow me on Twitter.
Yeah.
Follow me on Twitter. The description is there on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. I will post the link when it's available. Yep.
Yeah, as soon as it's available, we'll share it. If there's no further questions, I think everyone have a great night. I know it's late for you over there in New York. Thanks once again. It was great.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thank you.